WineLibraryTV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program. And as you can see, we are in Boston, a city I love, except for the Patriots, with a very, very special chef, world famous Michael Schlow. How are you, my man?
I'm doing
Thanks
great.
For being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming in. You know, do you need an espresso or anything?
No,
I'm sure. Okay, I'm just making sure.
No, don't worry.
I see you. I just see that you're a little, you know, you're a little more actually, you're a little key today. I was expecting a little more energy.
Yeah, I understand. So, Michael, for probably the 5 people who don't know who you are that watch my show,
right.
Why don't you tell everybody where we are and how we got to this place in your career?
Okay, well, we're at Viamonte today. And this is one of my Italian restaurants. I'm involved in a lot of restaurants. I have Radius, which is a modern French restaurant, Viamonte, and Great Bay. Those are the 3 that are in Boston.
Great Bay?
Great Bay, which is all seafood.
Yep.
It's got steak and
I know.
seafood, right?
Yep. I just want to make
And then also I'm involved in 2 Autostrada restaurants. One's in Wellesley, Massachusetts. One's down at the MGM Grand in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then I also consult for the Marriott Corporation and the Renaissance Hotels. We have a place called 606 Congress there. And so that one's an American restaurant.
Where's that?
That one's also in Boston. It's down by the Seaport District. So keep my hands and my mind busy.
And are you, chefs are very fascinating to me as a whole when they get into personal branding and entrepreneurship, because I feel like I have a lot of that and I love that. And your genre has gone into that with the Food Network and things of that nature. Do you, are you looking for world domination? Where do you want to
No, I would say world domination is not on my radar right now. I'm very happy with where I am.
Are you looking for more projects? From creatively, do you feel like there's other things you want to do?
Well, as a chef, I am so lucky that I have these to really get involved with, and I have great chefs that work with me also. But what ends up happening is, a restaurant's successful, and I think as humans, especially as Americans, we will always want to do a little bit more. But right now, I'm very happy. I would do more, but it's got to be the right project. There's only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week, and I think I filled pretty much all of them with food. So
tell me how you got here. I mean, you didn't just one day. I mean, did you grow up in food?
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and
Love it.
Yep, and I was born.
Were you a Jets or Giants fan?
I hate to say it. I was a fan of all New York teams, except for some reason.
You were a Cowboys fan.
Thank you very much. I guess that right.
It's the skills, Matt. I can feel. I can taste the fanship.
I am a Cowboys
This happens all the time, by the way. I can nail them. Go ahead.
Cowboys
so you
fan.
grew up a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. So I didn't like the Giants.
They suck you in. They suck
it
you
wasn't
the marketing.
It wasn't the marketing. I was a little kid. And
they won the Super Bowl on your bandwagon.
No, it wasn't that either. There's a long story involved in it.
Go ahead, I want to hear.
Really want to hear? It's such a pathetic story.
Give us the.
All right, the real, true story.
Because, I mean, how many times have you talked about this in public? I'm like Barbara Walters. I suck it out.
Yeah. Okay. I hope I don't start to cry. The real story is that I was 5 years old, and my grandmother had taken me to the movies in Brooklyn, and the movie she took me to see was called Bambi.
Okay.
And I was sitting on my dad's lap watching the highlights one day, a few months later, and they say, when I guess it was back then Don Meredith or Roger Staubach throws the ball to number 19, Lance Bambi Allworth, and so I think as a 5-year-old that Bambi is somehow playing for that team, and that is how I like the Dallas Cowboys. That's a true story.
That was not what I was thinking.
Pathetic as it is, I wish it was like I fell for a cheerleader, and I got
more, man. That is a tremendous.
Bambi,
Thank you for that. Thank
you for letting me finally come clean on this. I feel.
How many times have you talked about that in public?
It's not something I'm particularly proud of.
I understand.
That a cartoon character got me my favorite
That's a
football
pretty
team.
amazing story.
I'm comfortable with who I am, and
no doubt.
that is the real story.
You picked 3 dishes here.
Yes.
We were lucky enough. You said this is what we're going to pick. I picked wines around it. That's what we're going to kind of do. Really want to focus on you and the dishes. Tell me, Matt. You want to just? Oh, we have Matt today, not Mont. We're in Boston for the Boston Wine Expo, so we replaced the O with the A. Matt got in here. Matt, maybe you do a quick little overcam shot, nothing too smooth, Matt. Make sure it's bouncy a little bit. But why these 3 dishes? And we'll go through them one by one. But globally, when you knew we were doing this, what kind of made you say these are 3 dishes I want to do?
Well, for Viamonte, really, the food here is not complicated. The idea here is for you to feel like you're eating in Italy. That is the most important thing to us. We have an all-Italian wine list. The dishes that I make here, for the most part, are dishes that I learned pretty much verbatim, the way they were taught to me in Italy. A few of them have a little twist or turn, But Italian food to me is about simplicity and recreating the way it was taught to you over and over and over again. It doesn't necessarily need any of my creativity to make it better. So what I wanted to do with the dishes today is give you an example of if you were going to come and just eat some food. These are 3 things I would put down today. One is a Salmon Crudo, and that's got some fennel, a little bit of red jalapenos, and some blood oranges. Blood oranges are in season right now. And fennel and blood orange salad by itself is a fantastic salad, one of my favorites. But this one we jazz it up a little bit. And it's a pretty presentation, but it's so clean and so simple. The pasta dish, it's Boston, it's wintertime, it's cold, it's snowy, it's miserable. And not only is it pasta, but it's pasta, something's got a little bit of oomph to it. So this is tagliatelle bolognese. It is made the way they make it in Bologna. That means that, unfortunately, I grew up in Brooklyn and in New Jersey also. It's a place called New Jersey. Somerville, New Jersey.
Oh, God.
And, you know it?
I grew up in Hunterdon County.
Oh, okay. We used to kick your butts in lots of sports.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Hold on. But you mean by like the old Toys R Us and the movie theater and the channel? And
oh, yeah. I could walk to that from my house.
I know Somerville Circle.
I could walk to that from my house. And you had to take your life in your hands when you were either in a car or...
where did you go to? Bridgewater West? Or
no, I went to Somerville High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so...
Very cool.
How we segue from... what I wanted to tell you is...
I still didn't get the answer how you got into food. I got sidetracked.
I'm going to get to that,
We'll get to that in a little bit. Go ahead.
But it's all... We'll tie it all together at the end.
Like a pretty package.
Yes. So the funny thing is about, if you grew up in that area, you grew up the way I did then with a sort of soprano style of Italian cooking.
Sure.
You cut the end of all the words, and you're like, give me a little prosciutto, a little mozzarella. And I literally got my ass kicked when I went to my first real Italian restaurant where they even expedited in Italian. It was called Sapore di Mare. It was in New York, and that's where I worked. And learned a lot of these dishes. And really
because you were on heart, you were on feel, right?
Yeah, it was more feel, but I would say to my boss who was from Florence, oh, what are you going to make with that galamon? And he'd look at me and say, the what? And he was from Florence, and so he'd say, it's calamari. You'd say the whole word. But I thought, like Tony Soprano, it's like, Sfiato, what's it? Soprasad, gabagool. None of those words exist in Italian,
Got it.
Except for a little tiny dialect maybe.
It's Jersey Italian.
Right, it's Jersey, Brooklyn Italian. And so, when I first started to make things like tagliatelle bolognese, I just thought it was, a meat sauce with tomato. I had no idea what really went into it. And then as I would go to Italy each year, and I go down twice a year, really to sort of validate and make sure that what we are making is the way that they make it there. And I think that's really, really important. There's no greater compliment than when Italians come into the restaurant and say, where did you work? Where did you live? How did you know how to make this dish? Because this is exactly the way my mother or grandmother in the restaurant that I worked
They call you over and they pretty much say you're from the old. They feel like you're from there, right?
Well, and Italy has changed a lot also. I mean, there's a lot of sophisticated things. Like you wouldn't have seen raw fish, but in maybe a few small seaside towns.
Yeah.
But you see it more and more. There's a restaurant in Rome called La Rosetta that they do this incredible spread of raw fish. Oh, so good. But they'll just put like a little salt, a little olive oil, and lemon juice on it.
And away you go.
And it's just
let
delicious.
the fish speak.
Well, yeah, I think that's important. So what wine did you pick with?
Let's go with the first one. We're going to go with this. It's a Movia Ribolla. It's actually from Slovenia.
Okay.
And this grape, Ribolla, you might know some of the Ribolla Giallas, originated really from Greece and came to Italy through Slovenia. And this is actually, I think, grown, believe it or not, in Italy, but then made in Slovenia. Movia is a great producer. I saw it on your list, and right away when I think of Crudo, I think of really crisp, clean wines. However, this sees a little oak.
Yeah, you can see in the color, it's not as blonde as a lot of white wines from Italy.
It absolutely has a little oak. So I just, to me, anytime I can talk about Ribolla Gialla on the Thunder Show, I want to. I want people to try these grapes. The Ribolla grape is very interesting to me, so I want to give it a sniffy sniff.
Yeah, I did.
Jump to it. Smelly time first.
Smelly time.
Yeah, snippy sniff is very important to me. It's one of my things.
Now, is that a real sort of trade lingo kind of thing, sniffy sniff? Is that something I should be using in the green meal meetings from
Yes, it is.
Okay, everybody, sniffy sniff.
Yes, absolutely. When we're
I
training.
think in the restaurant business that might mean something different. I mean,
it may.
That's afterward.
It's just something I always used to say, and I brought on the show, and people have liked it. But it's it's an easy way to remember that I think people do not smell wine.
Right, I would agree with you, and also I think people don't drink wine at the right temperature often.
Well, now we're going to get into an interesting debate because I'm actually a completely room temperature guy. I'm like, you know, I'm all like this. Even when this was brought out, like it's a little bit cold.
And food's the same way. You know, you taste food if it's too cold or too hot. I don't think you can taste the nuances of food if it's ice cold.
Tell me about smelling food. Now, just
sure.
You know, I smell food quite a bit because it just translates from what I do.
I think you can.
Do you think that's important? Do you think you wish people did more of that?
I think you use every sense in the restaurant business in general. I mean, your eyes, your ears, your nose. It's definitely touch, the tactile pleasures of cooking also.
Could be hearing here.
Well, I don't know about hearing here. I don't know well, you know what? I actually do. It's funny you say hear though. I use my ears when I'm cooking. Absolutely, like the sizzle of something, or I can hear something and be like, hey, that's time.
I wish the sound of the cork popping could have some indicator of quality. Let me give this a little whirl. I gotta kind of do my job. Just a quick second. You get it here. Pretty clean. I do get a little bit of that subtle oak on the back end.
Right.
Matt, we're gonna need some sort of bucket for them, even if it's like a spittoon or something. I know there's nobody around.
It's okay.
It's the best. I'll yap while we try to fill time.
That's their tip jar, Matt.
Don't take the tip jar, Matt.
We're gonna spit their money.
Their calculator too.
Why don't you just get us a glass? You want to?
Yeah, it's fine. Perfect idea.
One of those glasses.
Pretty clean, very complex, I think.
Right.
And to me, you know, one of the reasons I picked this is when I saw the red pepper, the jalapeno pepper,
right.
you know.
Gonna have some spice to it.
And I wanted this to have a little bit, I think the oak can actually balance against the little bit of heat from the spice.
I think that's a good call if you tell people.
Try it,
so yeah.
because this one we'll try. The other one kind of let do it.
You know, it's interesting you say that about the oak is fat in general. Anything that's got a little richness is going to sort of squelch just a little bit that super spiciness. But also we don't put a lot of seeds in it. So you get the flavor of it without all that like super hot heat. And then the fennel is going to cool it off a little bit with the blood archosa.
I mean, you know, the problem with me is when you get into raw fish and crudo and things of this nature, I will just go to town. I love it. I mean, this is legitimately how I want it.
I put a little more salt on it.
Yeah.
But there's some spice.
Oh, there's spice. Now let's see what happens here.
But it has a reaction. It's very interesting. The anise flavor from the fennel
pops quite a bit.
I actually get the spice gets picked up even more. Don't you think?
Which is good for me.
Me too. I love
spice. You're right though. The hope of it kind of toning in. Okay, you know, to me it accentuates a little bit of the pepper. So it depends on how you want to really play that. To me, that's always going to work because I'm a spicy kind of character.
Yeah.
But
I knew that when you walked in.
You knew that, huh? You felt that.
I had heard it before though.
Oh, wait a minute. You didn't know that. You were in a meeting for 40 minutes before you even knew I was here. I was nice and quiet in the corner, drinking my cappuccino, having a nice time. And then you said, "Oh, you were here?" I didn't know. So I came in real quiet. The thunder was. It was
really did.
It was like a drizzle.
You know what it was? The thunder was rumbling quietly in the distance.
It was like a calm before the storm. All right, let's move on.
Okay. You're going to want to eat that, just so you know, but we'll make you another fresh one.
Yeah, I'm going to eat it afterwards. Okay. Flat out.
Okay. So you want to
pour this out? Yeah, let's pour this out. We talked a little bit about the meat sauce. I'm going to show this wine. We're going to taste it, but you're going to tell us how you really got into cooking in a second.
Okay, yeah, of course.
But let me focus on this. Matt, zoom in on this little Brezen 2002 Pinot Nero. This is $90 on the list. I don't really know what retail. We'll look that up for you. It's from
means we probably bought it for like $6.
$2.
Yeah, I was going to say 6.
You guys are really killing it. Rinse a little report. Pinot Nero is Pinot Noir in Italy. But what really made this wine fun to pick is I think a lot of people don't realize how flexible Pinot Noir is with pasta and sauce. The way I
and also like a light fish too, don't you think? I mean a robust fish.
Big time, big time. But here's where it gets a little fun for us wine nerds for a quick second. 2002, horrible vintage by every standard. Record horribleness. I mean, if you speak to anybody in the wine, it's probably the worst vintage in a 60-year span in Italian red wine.
Really, that bad?
However, you know that. That's like when you you don't know that.
I'm feeding you the lob here. Now you got it out of the park.
I'm going somewhere better with it. I'm going somewhere better with it. You know this. There's maybe a farm or a shop where you guys buy food.
There's always somebody.
There's always something there, right? There's always 15 to 50 wines in a vintage that is completely viewed as awful. And that, my friends, is where you pounce. 2002 Bordeaux, also considered very poor. We had Pavi. We had a Chateau Pavi, which is a world-class Bordeaux. It was selling for $200. We offered it for like 70 because the market was crushed. Nobody, you know, in America we look at it globally. Oh, 2002 is bad? It's bad. We're not going to take the chance. And we look for diamonds in the rough. I had no idea this could be a piece of crap.
Well, let's find out.
We're going to find out. So while we snippy snip this and talk about it, tell me about how you really got into cooking.
Well, my grandmother took me to a movie when I was 5 years old. No, what happened was...
Roger Staubach one day.
Yeah, he walked in and said, "Hey kid, you want to get in the restaurant business?" No, what happened was I've been working in restaurants my whole life. My first real job, other than like paperboy and washing cars kind of stuff. I was 14 years old and I started as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and it was the local restaurant
in Brooklyn.
This was actually
we
had moved to Somerville when I was 14 years old. My mom got remarried.
That was culture shock for you from Brooklyn, huh?
Well, you know what? We had stopped in one other place that was just as bad. You know, I mean,
which was where?
East Brunswick, New Jersey. We were all it was.
Well, we almost had a very interesting thing. I grew up in Edison first, and then moved to Hunter.
So we've only been in places where the sports teams compete against each other, and my teams have won.
Hold on. I hope you know.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. I mean, what am I going to say? Thank God you're not a Patriots fan.
So anyway, my family became friendly with the guy that owned this local restaurant called The Newsroom, and it was kind of like a Cheers type of place. Everybody knew each other. You went in there, had a great burger and cold beer, and that's really where I was bitten by the restaurant bug. I would wash dishes. I remember having this crazy thought. I'd be back in the dish room by myself, and I would think, I'm only 14 years old, and I'm thinking, I want to be the best dishwasher. That the cooks actually think, wow, when Michael's back there washing dishes, everything's better. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I did. Well, that was something that my parents brought me up with. My stepfather, who's really raised me, instilled in me from a very young age, is that no matter what you touch, it has nothing to do with price. Make sure everything you do has quality behind it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that stuff's been lost. I don't want to make this one of those
generational things.
Well, yeah, I walked uphill.
The kids these days.
Yeah, I didn't want to make it.
The texting, the iPhone.
I walked uphill, both ways in the snow with no shoes to go to school.
But it was different.
But it was different, and there was a bunch of American kids in washing dishes next to me, and I don't have any kids that are willing to do that anymore. They all want to be the chef. They want to be a sous chef. And I'll say, well, you don't know how to butcher a salmon, or you don't know how to do anything yet, and you want to be the top. It's like, it's a long road. And
nobody wants to pay the price. We're seeing it now. Everybody wants a bailout. The porn industry wants a bailout.
You know what? That might be worthwhile.
I understand that as well. So let's get into this wine real quick, and then we'll continue the story. Earthy, obviously, like you can expect from Pinot Noir. Also, do you notice it is a little herbaceous?
Well, it's got some herb behind this, definitely. And you know what it doesn't have that you see in a lot of the more American and French Pinot Noirs is it's not as much of that berry, cherry
fake fruit.
Yeah.
Fake fruit. Let's give it a whirl.
I like that wine a lot. It's not that big.
You know what? I like it a lot too.
I like it a lot.
I was really kind of getting excited to say this is the worst wine
ever.
See what would happen.
What do you think?
Because then my team would beat your team kind of thing.
Right. Well, you didn't make the wine.
Honestly, I could care less about it. I'm so unemotional about any wine.
What do you think of this?
First and foremost, the first thought that comes to my mind is it's much heavier than I expected.
And there's also there's a drinkability about it, not to use the Budweiser thing, but want to drink.
Budweiser stole that because they're worried about the wine industry. It's a wine term. Silkiness.
Yeah,
there's a silkiness on the back end. I get really crushed cranberry meets cherry flavors on the mid palate, and it's great because you get this herbaceous earth tone in the beginning, but then it finishes more fruit driven.
Yeah.
Where we didn't pick it up in the nose, it is a sour cherry. Little hints of cranberry on the back end. I also get a little bit of a floral component on the back end, but it rounds out the palate extremely good. And there's a factor in this wine, the reason he reacted this way, and I was tasting, maybe you've noticed, if you rewind, you'll see my eyes go, there's a delicious factor to this
It really is good.
It's just delicious.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised, actually.
You're surprised that we picked that wine that tasted good, or you're surprised that the 2002 tasted so good? I'm
surprised you like the Cowboys because of Bambi.
You're gonna come back to that.
That is like it for me.
I'm gonna be like
Bambi
doing something really, really important someday, like Bambi!
Maybe like governor. I'm gonna be like, Bambi from governor. Tremendous wine, where the Ribolla, very crisp, clean, subtle oak, falls in like an 89 point type wine for me. Right. This really comes in at like a 91, 92 point wine. I can't get over the bright, it almost has, you know this better than I do, the little fresh strawberries.
Sure,
Which
like
is
the
such
little
a
fregola.
Yes, exactly. I get that quite a bit on the aftertaste. I'm liking this. You like this wine, huh?
I do. I'm going to continue to drink it all night long, I think.
And there's, smell this again. Are you noticing this new, there's a white pepper component starting to develop on the nose. Are you picking that up at all?
I am. It's not intense, but it's behind everything. You know, it's in there. There's no question about it that it's in there.
It really
without it being like spicy.
No,
it's in the face.
It's not Zinfandel.
Yeah,
it's not black pepper.
But it's in there.
Interesting. All right.
So 2002, we like this.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of why I wanted to roll the dice. I mean, we've done this before, and I mean, that
we don't know.
I mean, listen, that Pavis, when I tasted Bordeaux, I drank 117 wines, and 112 of them were atrocious. 3 of them were solid, and 2 were phenomenal. One being an expensive Pavis, one being some $12 Bordeaux.
How many? Let me ask you a question. Yeah. How many wines can you really taste
before I fatigue?
Yeah.
Anywhere between 80 and 120.
That many?
Wow. Because first of all, you spit, and you just get used to it.
Yeah.
You just get used to it.
But it's not like perfume for you, where like if I'm smelling, you know, not that I do this normally, but you know, if you smell a couple of perfumes or whatever, they all start to smell alike to me.
It happens. You know what? And it's a day-to-day thing. We were tasting not too long ago at the store, and after like the 6th wine, I'm like, I'm out. I
depends on the day.
You know, I mean, it's like shooting free throws or coming up to
See, I never miss on free throws or batting. No. I always make that.
Okay, you need to be careful because you know we'll go outside right now and just do it.
I will take you
this is not the food network. We're pretty. We'll do it.
This will be a new throwdown.
New throwdown. Forget the cooking. All right, we're gonna go to the last dish. Yes. Tell me about this, and then you'll finish how you got into cooking. We'll taste the wine.
All right. So the next dish is pollo al matone, which just means chicken under a brick. And people say, do you really use a brick? Yes, we really use a brick, but it is wrapped in tin foil so that the brick doesn't actually touch. But what you do is you bone out a half of the chicken, so there's no bones in the thigh or the leg meat, and all that's really left is this little wing joint right here.
Which I love.
And you just salt and pepper it, and you cook it in the pan, a little bit of olive oil, and flip it over so the skin is down, and then you put that brick in down on top of the breast. And what ends up happening is it sort of spreads the chicken out so that it has complete contact, all the skin on the pan. It's really crispy, really delicious. And we serve it so simply with just a little bit of sauteed Swiss chard, and a little bit of fresh herbs and some of the cooking juices from the chicken. Squeeze a little lemon on it. And that to me that's an Italian dish.
That's classic.
And maybe you have like a side of potatoes or little roasted potatoes or something like that.
There you go.
And it's so easy to do. What'd you pick with this?
I picked the classic kind of like super Tuscan style wine. It's like a third of Cabernet, Sangiovese, and Merlot. It is a 91 point Galani wine, and we actually looked up to find the blend while we were here, and we saw that we actually sell it. So it's a $40 retail wine from Tessanaya, Castello di Tedicchio. When I first got into the wine business and started buying from my dad's store in like 94, 95, this was one of the first wines I ever bought.
Is that right?
Because everybody wanted Celaya and things
Sure, yeah.
right?
And there's only so much to go around also.
That's true, but we were pretty lucky with that. We were in the game that I just wanted to be different.
Right.
I wanted to find what was the next Celaya.
Right.
And this kind of popped on my radar. I've been a fan of it for a very long time. And this
now, as far as the percentages of a third, is that very, very similar? That it's always 33, 33, 33, 33, 33 for the super Tuscans, or do they really mess with those?
They super mess with that. They could be 70 cab, 30.
Right, but as long as the 3 are in there.
Not even necessarily. It could be Syrah or Low. I mean, they really, really do mix it up. This is 34 Sanjo, if you're wondering where the mystery 1% was.
When you think about it, I mean, in jest, but that they name it Super Tuscan. It's like, could you imagine?
They didn't name it. You don't get the name of that? Want a fun fact? Robert Parker.
Did he really?
Yes. When they started, there was these, they were breaking the laws,
right, we
running
know
wine, and so they were trying, because they wanted to make world-class wine, and the Italian laws were too strict, and so Parker branded them as Super Tuscans, the premium Tuscan wines, and it really, one of the big things he ever did for them, it really took them to the next
level. It's great, because I mean, could you imagine if we did that like with our food, and he said...
It's my little brother, AJ.
What's going on, AJ? How are you?
I you wanted to arrest him.
Yeah,
he's from Brooklyn, bro, so anything could have happened. I had to save him.
It's so funny, because I was thinking about, like, couldn't we do something like this with our restaurants, instead of being like just Via Monta, it could be known as like ultimate Italian, we serve ultimate reserve Italian food, DOCG.
Let's go into a restaurant together. Let's just call it the greatest restaurant of all time.
You know what? You're gonna laugh, but a buddy of mine just opened a place called The Greatest Bar. That's what it's called, The Greatest Bar. It's a fantastic name. And I said to him, though, if you're gonna do this, you have to have the greatest hamburger, the greatest wings, the greatest, all that. You're asking for a lot. The greatest girls, the greatest music, you have to have everything,
Yeah.
You're right?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Okay, so we'll get into this one in a minute. Okay. Let's continue. You get the restaurant.
I got the dishwashing thing.
What happens from there?
I wash dishes. And then Oh, I tried everything. I went to college. I played baseball in college for a little while, and I thought maybe baseball. Then I was into horse racing.
Did you really think you were going to become a Major League Baseball player?
I didn't. I mean, people thought, yes, maybe. Well, it's the minors. So who knows how far you're going to go. And because when you're 18 years old, you've not finished growing and all this sort of stuff. But I was good, and I got hurt, and I couldn't play anymore. But long story short, I always cooked. I mean, even in college, on the little hot plates, you know, if I met a girl, I'd make her a little omelet or something like this. And
did that work for you?
As a matter of fact, it did.
I believe it. I believe it.
And what ended up happening is my mom said to me, you know, what are you going to do with your life? Because you don't want to continue to go to college. You don't want to go into horse racing. You don't want to be a doctor. You don't want to.
Oh, horse racing.
Yeah,
I'm into horse racing.
Well, you know what? When I was a kid, I used to go out, and if you remember this out by where you live, actually.
Flemington?
Well, you remember Landelville Farms and all these sort. I used to go work there as a kid in the summers and work on the farms, and I loved horses as well. I was thinking about, well, maybe an equine vet. Maybe that's what I'll do. So, yeah, something I don't bring up often with food because it just doesn't really go. But I went to college, my mom said to me, you know, why don't you just go check out culinary school, just look. And so I looked, and I'd been waiting tables and making side money and all this. And when I put that chef's jacket on the first day, I knew, and I got yelled at the first day too, because I walked in, and I've got 2 buttons off, not buttoned up. Yep. And so I walk in thinking I'm cool, like that's the way I saw it.
Was it because you wanted to show the chest hair?
I don't have that much chest hair, right? But the honest to goodness truth is that I thought watching Jack Tripper on, you know, on
Three's Company
at the Regal Beagle. Yes. No, he didn't work there. He worked at
Shea, whatever. Remember? Because the guy with the mustache, his boss.
Angelino's. That's where it was.
Angelino's.
So he was at Angelino's, and he always had the 2 things. And so I thought the 2 things was standard, you know, dress. And so I walk in there. My first chef, Chef Wentworth, 6'6". This guy's, and he looks down, and he's got the hat
back up, and
he looks down, and he's like, he had name tags on. He's like, Mr. Schlow. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, button that jacket up or remove yourself from my class. I was like, oh boy, this is serious stuff. But I loved it, you know, and from that moment on, really, those first days, I knew this is what I wanted to do. That's funny, a quick side story. I got asked to be the first student, alumni actually, to ever come back and give a commencement speech. So I put on my best suit, I fly down to the school.
Where was this?
This is the Academy of Culinary Arts in Mays Landing, New Jersey, right outside of Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So I go.
Did you gamble a little on that weekend?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't. But I go down there, and they've got me all set up, and I've got my best suit on, and I'm a little nervous, you know, but things have gone well in my life, and I won the James Beard Award at that point, and all this other stuff. Huge. So I go down. And all my chefs, a lot of them that were my teachers, are now in the lounge having coffee before the commencement starts. And I walk in, and I go, Chef, nice to see you. Chef, how are you? How are you? And Chef Wentworth was still there all these years later, and he says to me, Mr. Schlow, he said,
unbutton your chef.
Well, no, I was all buttoned up, and I was looking tight, and he said, I want to let you know that we were all sitting around here yesterday having lunch, and we were discussing the fact that you were coming back to do the commencement speech, and we are incredibly proud of you, and we just want to let you know that. And we collectively were discussing what was going on with you when you were here at school, and we all agree, and we wanted to let you know something. Like, please, Chef, tell me what's going on. He says, well, what they said to us was, while we all knew that you were going to be a great success, we just didn't think it was going to be in cooking. And I said, all right, well, thank you for those words of wisdom and encouragement, and I'm going to go out now and give a commencement speech.
That's pretty awesome.
You know, but they were just keeping me in check.
Yeah, sure.
Keeping me in check. But they were so proud of all the things that have happened, and they keep in contact with me, and they send me students all the time, and it's really a very cool story. And I worked in New York, and I came here to Boston in 1995, never intending of staying.
I'm sorry to interrupt this part, but I want to know, where was the prime time spot in New York that you worked last before you came up to Boston?
Well, I worked in a few restaurants. I worked for a guy named Pino Lumago, the guy I was telling you about a little bit earlier without naming him, the guy from Florence. He was a huge influence in my life. I worked for him at Sapore di Mare, La Madre, Coco Pazzo, all in New York. But a great restaurant right by where you used to live that was the last thing I did before I came to Boston. I knew I was stopping there just for a short time. I worked at the Ryland Inn. And that guy is a genius. I mean, a genius. And I learned so much, not only about cooking, about how to handle yourself, and how to be professional, and how to treat your staff. And really, he was amazing.
A great springboard for you.
Unbelievable. I learned so much from Craig Shelton, and you know, if you're watching, Craig, thank you very much.
She's good people. All right, let me jump into here.
Yes.
Let's taste the tassonaio.
Wow, that has got a fantastic nose to this. Now, what year is this one?
This is an 04. Classic vintage, classic nose, you know, that classic sour cherry, even more so than the last wine, but almost creamed up, almost like a creamy pastry, fruit, raspberry type thing on the nose.
You notice I'm drinking, he's spitting.
Chef, I gotta say, there's something lucky about this corner. We have very, very few shows where all the wines do well, but this is one of them. Great complexity in this wine, very dry.
Yeah, it is dry, but I think it's going to be good with this.
It's a little creamy for me on the vanilla, almost like I'm tasting a lot of vanilla extract on the back end. Blackberries are dancing on my palate. Good solid Tuscan wine.
What kind of dance are they doing?
You know, a little bit more of like
a waltz?
the Dirty Bird.
Do
you know what the Dirty Bird is?
As long as it's not the angry elephant,
no.
The elephant song or anything like that.
This is a good wine. A little new world for me, to be honest. A little bit too new world for me, but I agree. I think it would do well with the dish. We're looking at 89 plus 90 point wine for me. Good stuff. Would I pay 40 bones retail for it? Probably not. I think there's some other alternatives. I'll tell you, on paper, somebody goes to the wine store, they see this, it's got a 91 point shelf talker, it's 2004 classic vintage, you're gonna buy it, you're gonna see this. You don't know much about it. It's 2002 cracked vintage Pinot Nero, and it dominates it. And that's the classic. You can't judge a book by its cover. Brooklyn boy that wasn't supposed to be good at cooking becomes the dominant chef of our era.
Oh, really?
No,
wow.
I don't know. I'm building up our new
Don't
place.
say Emerald, Wolfgang, Mario, all those guys that don't take me down in a second.
Well, you did win a big hamburger competition.
Yes,
I'm
very
very trying to be
proud
humble.
of it.
Let's talk about that for just a hair and then we'll get out of
Well,
here.
that was a funny story.
Last year, right?
Last year at the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, I thought I was just going to cook hamburgers on the beach. And so we're cooking 1,600 people on the beach, cooking hamburgers. It's unbelievable, and it's so much fun. It's a great party.
Are there any pretty girls there?
There were lots of pretty girls there. And I got to tell you, there were a couple pretty girls that said, we have eaten every single hamburger. There's 20 hamburger booths, and these girls were eating every single one.
And they're like 7 pounds, right?
Oh, they were great. They were fantastic. And they, and so, it's maybe half hour before the show's about to end, and they say to me, do you think you won? I said, I didn't know this was a competition. Oh yeah, it's a big competition.
Now, are you being like humble, awesome guy, and you did know it was a competition? You're trying to play it really kind of cool and pop in your collar a little.
Had I known that it was a competition,
you would have lost.
No, well, that's interesting. I probably would have lost because I probably would have got more nervous. But not only that, but if I knew it was a competition, I would have brought all the guns too. It's like I did bring my chef from Radius to cook with me, but that's because we just wanted to have fun in South Beach. Sure. But like I would have done things, for example, like we make our own buns at Radius. I used a store-bought bun. I would have made my own bun. This year, I'm making my own buns.
You have no chance this year. You're going to overdo it. And they're not going to give it to you twice.
No, they won't give it to me twice. They're going to give it to like Bobby Flay or
Flay will like start
because it's also there's a People Choice Award. So what'll end up happening is like
you'll win that.
No, that's going to be the Flay will win that because girls are going to be like, Bobby, I love you on
Do they love the Flay shirt?
Yeah,
he's got like red hair though, right? Like
he's loved.
That Conan thing. No, he's a superstar.
Conan's loved also.
Flay loves the horses.
I know he does. He owns
saw him at the trap.
Yeah, at Saratoga.
We saw him at Saratoga.
He's a good guy. We grew up in the restaurant business together, and he has done so well for himself. He's really, and it's funny, from the days of Miracle Grill, this little tiny restaurant that he was at, to now being this entrepreneur who's made so many restaurants and so many books and so much television. He's done really well for himself. Listen, with all those guys, my attitude is, they're my colleagues, they're my friends. As long as we're doing well, I hope they don't do well. So I'm not one of those guys that says, I mean, would I like to beat his ass now?
Well, we're offering the greatest restaurant ever.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Well, seriously.
Thank you. It was
you want to keep hanging out, right?
Of course I do. Well, let's just keep rolling.
But we have a huge, huge tradition where the guest asks the question of the day. So ask the tens of thousands of maniacs who are watching now any question in the world. Matt, we got to make sure we link up this restaurant. So all the Boston maniacs, you have to stop by in all the locations. 4
6
locations here.
There's a lot. Well, yeah.
Ask for him. He's too big time, but he's going to come out. He's from the streets. He'll shake your hand.
I will. I'll cook special for you. It'll be my pleasure.
Did I just come through for you? I need a little love for that. Ask him the question of the day.
Question of the day, huh?
Special.
Question of the day. I'm going with the question of the day is going to be...
It could be anything. What's your favorite Disney cartoon?
Oh, you mean I want me to ask them their question?
They're going to leave comments in the video blog.
I thought you wanted me to ask things like, will Tony Romo ever win the big game?
No. He might not even win a playoff
Yeah,
game.
no, it's so sad.
But you can ask, that could be your question, but ask them any question, like maybe a restaurant type.
How about we do a restaurant
Go
question? When you're in Boston, what is your favorite restaurant?
There you go.
Question of the day.
And I know you're gonna all, you know,
You
suck
better
up
say
to-
my name, and you better say my restaurants.
Well, that was out of my focus. You, with a little bit of me and tremendous human beings like this, we're changing the one, maybe the food world.
Yes.